The egg hit. The cafeteria
Oh my
roared with
gosh.
laughter. Daniel didn't move, didn't blink. But behind those calm eyes was someone they should have never underestimated. Because that quiet kid, he knew exactly how to fight back. What started as a prank
Oh, gross.
ended with the entire school on its knees.
Gross.
This is how the bullet became the legend. High school cafeterias are noisy places, laughter bouncing off the walls, phones flashing under fluorescent light, and somewhere in the middle of it all sat Daniel Kim. 16 years old, quiet, polite, the kind of kid who never fit into any box. He wasn't rich, wasn't loud, didn't play football. He just existed, invisible most days. But that morning, something was different. It started when Tyler Brooks, the self-proclaimed king of Ridgewood High, walked past Daniel's table. He was flanked by his usual entourage, three guys with identical smirks and overconfident swagger. Tyler noticed the black duffel bag under Daniel's chair. "What's that, gym bag?" he asked, voice dripping with mock interest. Daniel looked up, unsure how to respond. "Just my gear," he said softly. "Gear?" Tyler snorted. "What are you, in the army or something?" Before Daniel could explain, one of the guys unzipped the bag, pulling out a folded karate gi. "Oh, no way," Tyler laughed, holding it up like a trophy. "Yo, the new Karate Kid. Guys, look at this." Phones came out instantly. A few nearby tables turned. Someone yelled, "Show us a kick, Bruce Lee." Daniel's face flushed. "Please give it back," he said, trying to reach for it, but Tyler shoved him back with a grin. "What, you gonna fight me? You gonna do your little kung fu thing?" The laughter got louder, sharper. Daniel grabbed his bag and walked away, eyes down. But Tyler wasn't done, not even close. By lunchtime, a new post had already gone viral on Ridgewood Student Forum. Karate Kid thinks he's tough Skull Marshall, with a photo of Daniel's face from the cafeteria. He skipped his afternoon class, choosing instead to sit alone by the bleachers outside. The field was empty, the air heavy. He didn't cry, though. Daniel wasn't the type to show pain. He just clenched his fists and breathed, the same breathing technique his late father had taught him years ago at the dojo. "The fight doesn't start in your fists," his father used to say. "It starts in your mind." That night Daniel didn't tell his mom what happened. He just stared at the mirror, looking at his reflection, the bruised ego behind calm eyes, and quietly whispered, "I'm fine." But he was. The next day, things got worse. The cafeteria was louder than usual. People whispered and pointed before Daniel even sat down. He could feel the air tighten, the kind of silence that comes before a cruel joke. Then came Tyler again. He walked in holding something behind his back, smiling like he'd just found his next target. "Hey, Karate Kid," he called out, "got something for you." Daniel didn't respond. He focused on his tray, pretending not to hear. "Come on, man, don't ignore me." The moment Daniel turned his head, splat. An egg cracked over his hair. The yolk dripped down his forehead, onto his collar, and then his tray. The cafeteria erupted. Phones were out again. People filmed, laughed, shouted. Tyler raised another egg, but he didn't even need to throw it. The humiliation had already landed. Daniel froze in place. His breathing quickened. His fists trembled slightly on the table. He could feel his father's voice echo in his mind. "Control, Daniel, always control." Slowly he stood up. The egg slid down his cheek. He wiped it with his sleeve, silent. Everyone waited for him to explode, to fight back, but he didn't. He just looked at Tyler, eyes sharp, calm, unblinking. And then, without a word, he walked out. That silence scared Tyler more than anything. But for Daniel, that walk out of the cafeteria wasn't an escape. It was a vow. That night he pulled his old karate gi from the bag, the one his father gave him before passing. The fabric smelled faintly of sweat and memories. Daniel put it on, tightened the belt, and stood in front of the mirror again. He whispered, "You wanted a show. you'll get one. The next few days at Ridgewood High were unbearable. Every hallway Daniel walked through echoed with whispers. There he is, the Karate Kid. Someone even printed a meme with his egg-covered face and taped it on the locker room door. Tyler was the loudest laugh in every room. He always had been. Son of a local car dealership owner, captain of the basketball team, the kind of guy who thought charm was the same thing as power. He wore confidence like armor, cruelty like perfume. But Daniel didn't react. Not once. Not even when a few of Tyler's friends mocked him during gym class. To everyone else, Daniel looked broken, silent, humiliated, but inside something had changed, something dangerous. That Friday night, while everyone else went to the homecoming prep party, Daniel slipped into his father's old dojo. It had been closed for 2 years, ever since his father's passing, but it still smelled like pine wood and incense. The mats were dusty, but the memories were fresh. On the far wall hung a single framed photo, his father standing beside him, both in white gis, smiling after Daniel won his first local tournament. He bowed before the photo and whispered, "I need you, Dad." Then he started to move. Slowly at first, rusty punches, half-remembered kicks, but soon muscle memory took over. Every strike hit harder, every stance firmer. The anger that had been sitting quietly inside him all week began to burn through every motion. When his fists met the old punching bag, the sound echoed like thunder. When his foot swept through the air, it sliced the silence clean. And with every breath, he repeated the same words in his head, not of revenge, but of control. Discipline over rage, precision over chaos. He trained until midnight, until his knuckles were red and his breath came sharp. When he finally stopped, sweat dripping down his face, he felt calm. Not angry. Not humiliated. Focused. Over the next few days, the whispers at school continued, but Daniel had stopped hearing them. He woke up early, trained before sunrise. He ran, practiced his forms, sharpened his reflexes, rebuilt himself from the inside out. By week 3, the bruise in his heart had turned into something else, a quiet kind of confidence that scared the bullies more than any words could. He didn't glare, he didn't threaten, he just walked taller, moved differently, like someone who'd already made peace with a battle that hadn't happened yet. And then the announcement came, the annual Ridgewood Charity Exhibition, a school-wide event where clubs could perform. The Martial Arts Club was on the list. Daniel saw his opening. He approached Coach Miller after class. "Can I perform a solo demonstration?" The coach raised an eyebrow. "You sure, Kim? I thought you quit." Daniel just smiled slightly. "Not anymore." Coach shrugged. "All right, let's see what you've got." That weekend, Daniel didn't rest. He built his entire routine from scratch, a perfect blend of power, grace, and control. Something that would speak louder than any revenge speech could. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. The day before the performance, Tyler and his friends cornered Daniel in the locker room. "So I heard you're doing your little karate dance tomorrow," Tyler sneered. Daniel didn't answer. He just zipped up his jacket, his expression calm. Tyler stepped closer. "Still not gonna talk, huh? You think because you throw a few punches, people will forget you're a joke?" Daniel looked him dead in the eye. "I don't care what people think." Tyler smirked. "You should." He shoved Daniel hard against the locker. A loud clang. One of the guys chuckled. "Come on, hit him, show us your karate." Daniel straightened his jacket and said, "You'll see soon enough." Then he walked out. That silence again unnerved them. That night Daniel returned to the dojo for the last time. He trained until dawn, channeling every insult, every laugh, every egg thrown into a single, perfect sequence. His father's voice echoed in memory. "The best revenge isn't anger, it's mastery." The next day the gymnasium was packed. Parents, teachers, cameras, everyone was there. even Tyler lounging in the front row, smirking like the king of his castle. The lights dimmed, the crowd hushed. And then Daniel walked to the center of the floor barefoot, in a clean white gi black belt tied tight. For a few seconds, no one recognized him. The same boy who had been humiliated weeks ago now stood with calm poise, back straight, eyes sharp, every movement deliberate. He bowed to the audience. The music began, a slow, traditional rhythm, and Daniel moved like water and fire all at once. Each kick landed with precision. Each spin flowed like art. His strikes were crisp, his movements graceful but fierce. The audience was mesmerized. Tyler's smirk slowly faded. When Daniel finished, he stood still, breathing steadily, staring straight ahead. Then he looked toward Tyler, not with anger but with quiet dominance. The gym erupted in applause. But the real moment came minutes later, backstage. Tyler approached him, his tone uncertain, almost uneasy. "Hey man, that was, actually good." Daniel didn't reply immediately. He simply met his gaze and said, "Thanks." And then he walked past him, calm, unbothered, leaving the king of the school in silence. The weeks after the performance were quiet, too quiet. Tyler's group wasn't laughing anymore. Not in the cafeteria, not in the hallways, not at Daniel. For the first time, the silence worked in Daniel's favor. But peace, as Daniel learned, doesn't last long in high school. It started small, snide remarks, a shoulder bump in the hallway, the kind of tension that builds just enough to crack something deeper. Tyler had seen the admiration Daniel got after the performance, and it burned him from the inside out. He wasn't used to losing the spotlight. He especially wasn't used to losing it to the kid he'd humiliated. So one afternoon, when the final bell rang, Tyler made his move. The gym was empty except for the basketball team and a few friends. Daniel walked in to grab his forgotten notebook, but the moment he stepped through the door, the lights flicked off. Then the sound of sneakers squeaking on the floor. "Well, well," Tyler's voice echoed, "if it is Bruce Lee himself." Daniel didn't flinch. "I'm just here for my stuff." "Yeah, maybe you can show us some of your moves again." The crowd, dying for an encore. A chuckle rippled through the room. Daniel turned, his calm expression unwavering. "You should really stop before you embarrass yourself again." Tyler's grin vanished. That one sentence, delivered without emotion, cut deeper than any insult could. "Get him," Tyler said, stepping forward. The first shove came from behind. Daniel stumbled, caught his footing, and exhaled. His heart didn't race this time. His father's voice echoed again, "Control the storm, don't become it." When the second guy lunged, Daniel sidestepped, grabbed the attacker's arm, and guided his momentum forward, a perfect redirect. The boy hit the mat hard. The crowd gasped. Two more came at him. Daniel ducked under a punch, swept one's legs, and twisted, sending the other stumbling backward. In seconds, three of Tyler's friends were on the ground, groaning but unharmed. Tyler froze, disbelief plastered across his face. "What the hell are you?" Before he could finish, Daniel stepped closer, calm, collected, every movement precise. "You wanted a show, Tyler, here it is." Tyler swung wildly, but Daniel parried the punch with a single block. Then he stepped in, his hand gripping Tyler's collar, twisting him off balance. In one swift, fluid motion, Tyler hit the ground, not hard enough to injure, but enough to take the air out of him. Daniel crouched beside him, voice low but steady. "I'm not your punching bag anymore. You can humiliate me, mock me, throw eggs, but you don't get to control who I am." The room was silent. No one moved. Tyler's friends exchanged nervous glances. The arrogance drained from their faces. Daniel stood, brushed off his uniform jacket, and looked around. "Anyone else want to practice?" No one spoke. He turned and walked out, leaving Tyler on the floor, surrounded by his stunned entourage. By Monday, the story had spread through the school like wildfire, but it wasn't told like before. No one was mocking Daniel now. They spoke of what happened with awe, with respect. The video, yes, someone had filmed it, showed Daniel never throwing a punch unless necessary, never hurting anyone, just defending himself with perfect control. Even teachers whispered about it. Principal Carter called Daniel into his office later that week. "I saw the footage," he said. "You handled yourself better than most adults would have." Daniel smiled faintly. "Thank you, sir." The principal leaned forward. "You didn't retaliate, you demonstrated discipline. That's rare." Daniel nodded. "That's what karate's for, right? Not to fight, but to stop fighting." Carter smiled. "Your father would be proud." Daniel's throat tightened. "Yeah," he whispered, "I think so too." The final twist came during the next student assembly. The school board had been reviewing the incident, not to punish Daniel, but to address the bigger issue, the unchecked bullying culture. On stage, Principal Carter made an announcement. Ridgewood High is officially launching a self-defense and mindfulness club, led by our very own Daniel Kim. The crowd erupted in applause. Even Tyler, sitting in the back, looked down, shame in his eyes for the first time. Months later, Daniel stood in the dojo once again. The floor was clean, mats replaced, the walls freshly painted. A small group of students, boys and girls who'd been bullied, ignored, or afraid, stood in front of him. "Karate isn't about revenge," Daniel said, voice steady. "It's about balance, but sometimes standing up for yourself is the balance." He smiled, calm, centered, free. And as the sunlight poured in through the window, lighting up the old photograph of him and his father, Daniel bowed. The dojo echoed with quiet respect. "So tell me, if someone tried to break your spirit in front of everyone, would you strike back, or rise silently until the world saw your strength?" If you loved Daniel's story of discipline and redemption, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs it today, and subscribe for more powerful stories of justice and inner strength, only here on Revenge Journal.